Matthew is not the beginning of the New Testament. When you enter into the Gospel of Matthew, you are entering into an Old Testament village with a synagogue in full operation, with the blood of bulls and goats being shed on a daily basis. You're entering into an Old Testament economy village that knows nothing about the dispensation of grace that will be revealed later on out here. And the Gentiles are still down here, and Israel is still God's favored nation, although they are now an abomination in the eyes of the Lord because of their idolatry and the corruptness of their religion and everything else. But when Jesus Christ arrives on the scene to demonstrate to the world and to us and to everyone else that his mission is for Israel at that moment, he tells his disciples in Matthew chapter 10, "Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand." It's amazing to me that something that is as clear as this in the Word of God has created so much confusion in the mind of Christians today, because if you read from Genesis to Acts chapter 7, you'll know that there never was a Gentile on the scene. You'll know that. You know, if we took someone who, let's say, they were in New Guinea, in the jungles all their life, they didn't know anything about the Bible, they didn't know anything about religion, they didn't know that there were Baptists and Pentecostals and Lutherans and Presbyterians, and they didn't know that there was, hundreds, thousands of different religions and denominations in the world. Okay, they didn't know any of that. Their mind had not been polluted by other religions, other thinking, or anything like that. And you gave them a Bible. And you taught them how to read English. And they started from Genesis, and they started reading with a clear understanding, with no one to interject any thoughts or any ideas or any personal or private interpretations or anything of that nature. That person would read from Genesis, and when he got to the end of Malachi, he would say, boy, those Israelites are really blessed. God really has a special plan for them. And I know that one day I'll be added to that program, but right now, as a Gentile, I'm not there. And then he'd read in the Gospels, and he'd read the history of how their king came to set up the kingdom and fulfill the promises that were made. And he would read about this king who came, and then he would read that they killed their king. He'd go, what's wrong with those people? Through them, I would have been blessed, as you'll see in a few moments. And then he would have gone on, Acts chapter 1 to 7, he would have goes, and they're being offered their kingdom again. They can't see that. And then he'd see them stone Stephen. And then all of a sudden, he would see them. He would see in the Word of God that there was this secret that was hidden in God all along. Why? Because God was going to raise up the Apostle Paul. See, the thing is this secret that was hidden in God, until Acts chapter 7, no one anticipated it. No one thought that anything like this was ever going to happen. It had not entered into the heart of man, the things that God had prepared before the foundation of the world. No one thought of it. No one knew about it. And this person reading this for the very first time would go, wow, where did Paul come from? And then all of a sudden he would begin to read about the revelation of a secret that had been hidden in God that was now revealed to one Saul of Tarsus, who became the Apostle Paul. And he would see that God gave him that revelation, something brand new, where Paul started talking about grace and salvation through faith, apart from the works of the law. And all of these things would become clear, and they would be evident, and they would be... And then all of a sudden you would realize that for thousands of years, God had been speaking to Israel. He had made a covenant with them back here. And all of a sudden, you would get to Romans chapter 11, And for the very first time in thousands and thousands of years, you would read these words, "For I speak to you Gentiles." All of a sudden, God, who had separated the Gentiles back here, who had told his disciples, don't go to the Gentiles, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, who in the first 7 chapters of Acts was speaking to you men of Israel, you men of Jerusalem, you men of Judea, you leaders of the ruler of Israel. All of a sudden, out of the blue, God says, through one man, I am now speaking to you Gentiles.